Namaskar. This is Seshu Chira. Welcome you all back to Amska Academy. Today let us learn about Grade 8, Chapter 4 in Civics, Understanding the Laws. How do you understand the understanding laws? In this chapter, we will be learning how to define what is law, explain the process of lawmaking, analyze and discuss why certain laws are controversial in our country. So the learning objectives of this chapter are defining what is law, explaining the process of lawmaking, analyze and discuss why certain laws are controversial in our country. Let us look at an example which is given for us. You can see here, read the following situation and answer that follow. A government official helps his son go into hiding because his son has been given a 10-year jail sentence by a district court for a crime that he has committed. I would like to read once again. A government official helps his son go into hiding because his son has been given a 10-year jail sentence by a district court for a crime that he has committed. So the government official's son has committed a crime for which the punishment is awarded, and now the government official is trying to send his son into hiding. This is the given scenario. Do you think that the government official's action was right, or the actions were right? Should his son be exempted from the law just because his father is economically and politically powerful? So I think this is a wrong notion which is going. The government officials' actions were wrong, and the son should not be exempted from the law just because his father is economically and politically powerful. Whoever does a crime is a crime and has to meet the punishment. The above is a clear case of violation. As you read in Unit 1, the members of the Constituent Assembly agreed that there should not be any arbitrary exercise of power in independent India. Nobody should take the power into their hands. Nobody can bulldoze the general laws. All are equal before law. This is the said guideline for the Constituent Assembly, which we all learned in Chapter 1. Therefore, they instituted several provisions in the Constitution that would establish the rule of law. So looking at these scenarios, considering these kind of situations, they have made sure that the people all will be treated with the same law. They have made provisions that would establish the rule of law in the country. The most important of this was that all persons in independent India are equal before the law. All people, irrespective of their caste, color, creed, region, religion, all are equal before the law. The law cannot discriminate any individual, any person on the basis of religion, on the basis of caste, on the basis of gender. They cannot discriminate them. What the rule of law means is that all the laws apply equally to all citizens of the country, and no one can be above the law. So, as per the rule of law, what does this rule of law mean? The rule of law means that all laws apply equally to all citizens of the country and no one can be above the law. We all need to remember the fact here is that according to the Indian Constitution, no person, whether you are a common man, whether you are a government officer, you are a judge, you are a chief minister, you are a governor, you are a president, you are the prime minister, whomever you are, you have to follow the rules and no one is above the law. That is a simple meaning of rule of law. The same thing has been repeated here. You can see neither a government official nor a wealthy person nor even the president of India or a country is above the law. Any crime, violation of the law has a specific punishment as well as a process through which the guilty of the person has to be established. So if you do any crime or if you violate anything, there is a specific punishment. But this is established through a due process. Everyone has to follow the process. No one is exempted from the process. In ancient India, there were innumerable and often overlapping local laws. Different communities enjoyed different degrees of autonomy in administering these laws among their own. So the different countries have, in ancient India, there were innumerable, means many laws which are often overlapping with each other. There are two laws which are contrary to each other. There are laws which are telling of the same kind of issue. So different communities enjoyed different degree of autonomy of administering these laws among their own. So because we have different communities living in our country, they have different degrees of autonomy in making or interpreting the laws according to their own understanding. In some cases, the punishments that two persons received for the same crime varied depending on their caste, backgrounds. If they are lower caste people, the punishments were harsh, severe. If they are not from the lower caste, if they are from the higher caste, the punishments are very light, very little. So the punishment also varied depending on the person or the caste what they belonged to. So in ancient India, there were innumerable laws and these laws varied, overlapped, and in some cases there is a difference between persons receiving punishments for the same kind of crime what they have done depending on their caste and subcaste. It is often believed that it was the British colonialists who introduced the rule of law in India. It is often believed that we people in India believe that Britishers, colonial rulers, have introduced the rule of law in India. But is it the fact? Is it the reality? No. Historians have disputed this claim on several grounds. Two of them are like, first, the colonial law was arbitrary because the laws which are made by the colonial masters or the Britishers were always in favor of the Britishers, not in the favor of Indians. So they are arbitrary laws. Second thing, the Indian nationalists played a prominent role in the development of legal sphere in British India, for which these Britishers claim that they brought the rule of law. Under the umbrella of the British India, it is the Indian nationalists who played a key role in making these laws. One example for arbitrariness that continued to exist as part of the British law is the Sedition Act of 1870. the idea of sedition was very broadly understood within this act. The idea where the clearly mentions that according to this particular act, any Indian can be punished and without any trial he can be arrested. So there is no other alternative to check or to show that the arbitrariness of the Britishers towards Indians. So basically, it is not the Britishers who brought the rule of law to India, it is the Indians who wanted rule of law in India. So any person, as per the Act of 1870, protesting or criticizing the British government could be arrested without due trial. Indian nationalists began protesting and criticizing this arbitrary use of authority by the British. So when you make such kind of laws, how can you people claim that you people have brought right to equality for us or rule of law for us? No chance. So they also began fighting for greater equality and wanted to change the idea of law from a set of rules that they were forced to obey to law as including ideas of justice. By the end of the 19th century, the Indian legal professions also began emerging and demanded respect in the colonial courts. They began to use law to defend the legal rights of Indians. So basically, Indians started to come up with a set of rules and fighting for greater equality, which is missing at that particular point of time. As you can see the picture here showing the Jallianwala Bagh incident. And by the end of the 19th century, the Indian legal profession also began emerging and demanded respect in the colonial courts. They began to use law to defend the legal rights of Indians. Indian judges also started to play a key role or a greater role in making decisions. It's not only the Indian lawyers, it is also the Indian judges who started to play a very important role. Therefore, there were several ways in which Indians played a major role in the evolution of the rule of law during the colonial period. So with the adoption of the Constitution, the document served as a foundation of which our representatives began making laws for the country. Every year, our representatives pass several new laws as well as amended the existing ones. So basically, the Britishers have never gave us even the idea that we are equal before law. It is the Indian professions, legal experts, Indian lawyers, Indian judges who played a major role in various ways to bring the concept of rule of law during the colonial period, though they were not successful. But once the Constitution is adopted, that constitutional document served as a basic foundation for our representatives, began making laws for the country. And every year, our representatives pass several new laws as well as amend the existing ones. There is one example given for us, the Hindu Succession Act of 1956. According to the Hindu Succession Act, the girl child is not a successor of father's property. But there was an amendment which was made in 2005. According to this law, son, daughters and their mothers can get equal share of family property. So the initial Hindu Succession Act was passed in 1956. The same thing was amended in 2005, adding a clause to that. So with the adoption of the Constitution, the document helped us to edit the documents or to tweak the laws or to amend the laws. So Constitution has provided the base for the Indians to change the existing laws, make the new laws, or amend the existing clauses in the acts. So how do new laws come about? How do we make the new laws? The Parliament has an important role, as you can see on the screen, in making the laws. There are many ways through which this takes place. There are different groups in the society that raise the need for a particular law. An important role of the Parliament is to be sensitive to the problems faced by the people. So as a Parliament, we make laws in the Parliament. So in India, where do we make the laws? In India, we make the laws in the Parliament. There are many ways through which the people of different sections in the society raise the need for a particular law. Let us read the following story to understand how the issue of domestic violence was brought to attention of Parliament and the process adopted for this issue to become a law. So the domestic violence, what does the word domestic violence mean? The domestic violence means, as you can see on the picture here, a male member of the family, usually the husband, causes harm to the wife or the female member of the family. It can be injury caused by the physical beating up the woman or by emotionally abusing her. Abusing of women can also include verbal, sexual, and economic abuse. There can be either verbally scolding them, sexually abusing her, or the economic abuse, taking away her salaries or something like that. So looking at all these situations, an act was passed like the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act of 2005 extends the understanding of the term domestic to include all women who live or have lived together in a shared household with the male member who is perpetrating the violence. So as per the law, any male member who is living with the woman or in a shared house has been perpetrating the violence can be protected using this particular act, Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act of 2005. As the above example shows, the role of the citizens is crucial in helping Parliament to frame the different concerns that people might have into laws. So it is a role of the citizens which inspires the Parliament to make laws. If the public is suffering, that has to be brought to the attention of the Parliament. Immediately the Parliament will make some kind of laws to address the concern. From establishing the need for a new law to its being passed at every stage of the process, the voices of the citizens is a crucial element. Once the Parliament gets an idea what the public is suffering, then it is a need to make a law on that. Once the Parliament realizes the need, it is being passed, then at every stage of the process, the voice of the citizens is very, very crucial. So they make the voices very crucial at every level. The voices can be heard. How can citizens raise their voices or make their opinions reach to the government? They can raise their voices through TV reports, newspapers, editorials, radio broadcast, local meetings, all of which help in making the work that Parliament does more accessible and transparent to the people. So it is the Parliament which make laws in India, looking at the concerns, looking at the issues which are happening, Parliament takes the information and starts to work for the laws. Once the law is being passed, at every stage, it gives chances for the public to raise their opinions and make it reach to the government. How can they raise their opinions? They can raise their opinions through TV reports, newspapers, editorials, radio, broadcast, local meetings, and all of which help in making the work that Parliament does more accessible and transparent to the people. Unpopular and the controversial laws. I have kept a picture on the screen for you people. I think most of us forget the fundamental that freedom of expression is not freedom to abuse. We cannot abuse anybody because you have freedom of expression. Let us look at a situation where the Parliament passes a law that turns out to be very unpopular. When a Parliament passes a law, when it turns out to be unpopular, why? Because sometimes the law can be constitutionally valid and hence legal. Once it is constitutionally valid, obviously it is legal. But it cannot continue to be unpopular and unacceptable to the people. Because though it is constitutionally valid, though it is legally correct, it cannot go against the public interest, because somewhere people might be feeling that the intention behind it is unfair and harmful. The intention behind this is unfair and harmful. Hence, people might criticize this law, hold public meetings, write about it in newspapers, and report it to news channels, etc. So once the law has been passed, and if it is unpopular, if it is giving a message that a particular section of people only will get benefit from the law and the other section of people will not get benefit from the law, then that is an unpopular and controversial law. So that has to be reported to the government through criticizing the laws, holding public meetings, writing in the newspapers, report to TV, news channels, etc. so that the message reaches to Parliament. In democracy like ours, in India, our citizens can express their unwillingness to accept repressive laws from the Parliament. They can show that. They can show their anger. When a large number of people begin to feel that a wrong law has been passed, if large section of people feel that a wrong law has been passed, then there is pressure on the Parliament to change this. Then there is pressure on Parliament to change this one. For example, various municipal laws on the use of the space. See the outside space, out of a big mall or a house, municipal laws on the use of the space within the municipal limits often makes the hawking, street vending illegal. Correct. The space sometimes scrubs the streets and they occupy the space. They don't allow the free flow of the traffic. Correct. But no one will dispute to the necessity of some rules to be kept on public spaces, especially the open places, so that people can walk on the pavements easily. We don't dispute that, but we also need to consider that one cannot deny the fact that hawkers and vendors provide the essential services at very less cost efficiently to the millions of people living in the larger cities. So this means it is their livelihood. How can we say no to their livelihood? When you are banning through a law that people cannot use the pavements, you are actually banning or cutting off their chances of livelihood. So that is one thing which we need to remember. If the law favors one group and disregards the other, it will be controversial and lead to conflict. It will be controversial and leads to conflict. People who think that law is not fair can approach the court to decide on the issue. People who feel that the law is not fair, then immediately we can approach to the High Court or the Supreme Court. Why we should approach to the High Court or the Supreme Court? Because the court has the power to modify or cancel the laws if it finds that they don't adhere to the constitution. The courts like High Court or Supreme Courts have the powers to review the laws and cancel them or ask for modifications if it finds that they don't adhere to the constitutional guidelines. So that's why we move to the courts. There is a photograph that is being shown here, the different ways in which the citizens can protest, campaign, show their solidarity. The following pictures showing the protest. We need to remember that citizens have a very important role to play with elected representatives. It's that we end up the electing our representatives. So the citizens' role only is crucial. We can also use newspapers, media to carefully chart the work that is being done by our MPs, the members of the parliament who are elected by your votes, and criticize their actions when we feel it is required. Definitely we can criticize the actions when we feel there is something wrong that is happening. Thus, we should bear in mind that it is the extent, involvement and enthusiasm of the people that helps Parliament perform its representative functions properly. So it is the Parliament alone, it doesn't make any laws. It is the people, their involvement, their enthusiasm that makes the Parliament to perform better in representative functions properly. So who plays an active role in the Parliament lawmaking process? It is we, the citizens, who play an active role. It is you who play a very active role.